What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. Here with JP, Quentin, and Caleb. What's up, fellas?
Doing pretty good. It's almost Friday.
Yeah, it's close.
Mm-hmm.
It's close. Quentin, you doing okay?
Oh yeah, this heat is really starting to get to me, and I know you live in the desert, but we got that wet heat up here. You
I know
walk
what it's like.
outside and the piece
It's
of
muggy.
paper turns limp.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I remember those days.
It's
My
not
guys
fun.
that worked for me back in the day, they would bring three. I actually had a shower in my business, and they would bring 3 suits, and they would actually shower sometimes twice a day, maybe even 3 times a day, because they got so sweaty from going outside. It was the humidity was insane, especially when you're wearing a heavy suit. So I remember those days, but the heat here right now has finally kicked in. We've had a record length of time under 100 degrees, and that's over. And this is not heat index. This is real heat, where you're going to see 115, 117 degrees, and it's real heat. And we're now there. So
Yeah.
that blows. Just for everybody that wants to come and hang out in the desert, don't do it from about the end of June until really the end of September, because it's friggin' hot.
At least you have air conditioning.
Thank God for that.
hey, those casinos rock that air conditioner. Okay.
Yeah, they definitely do that.
Or just go to the casino. Like, I'm just gonna stay here, and just watch people lose money, and just order a couple drinks and some food while I watch people lose their money in the air conditioning. I can do that.
Hey, bastards. You know what's annoying is that us everyday guys that just work and do our thing. We have to pay our electric bill. And our electric bill out here it's already been manipulated.
I can imagine.
They busted the electric company like per kilowatt, double charging people. Like my electric bill in the summertime is anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a month.
Huh?
Yeah.
Come again?
That's in the summer.
You need to get out of that state.
Oh, believe me, I am. But the casinos, they get a giant break, and their electric bill is actually less than like my community has. My cul-de-sac has 4 houses. The one next to us has 4. One after that's got 4. So if you take all of those houses together, one MGM casino has a less electric bill than we do.
Well, imagine if that corruption happened in the NFL. A lot more people would get mad, and things would probably get done, unfortunately. So that's the reality we live in. But Quentin, you had some news for us you wanted to share about the Royals.
Real news. So if you guys didn't catch it this morning, the owner of the Royals, John Sherman, spoke with the media, and just a couple of things. This does pertain to the Chiefs because the Chiefs were brought up. But one, I just like to say, he doesn't have to speak to the media. And I know this may seem like a low bar, but the fact that he didn't just send out some PR guy out there to answer all these questions. He was answering everybody's questions about baseball, about the new stadium, everything. So I'll give him credit. He's not afraid to step out into the public eye. I don't remember David Glass ever walking out in front of the media, So
David Glass only did that one time, and that's when he bought the team, and then nobody ever saw him again.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give him credit for that. But the reason this involves the Chiefs is because he said that they want to get a ballot initiative next April to extend the 3/8 cent sales tax for the Royals and the Chiefs to fund the new stadiums.
Ooh.
Which would raise about $350 million for each team to go to their stadiums. Now, this would only be in Jackson County, where the stadiums are located now, and only people who live in that county could vote on it. So Caleb and I know we live in Clay County. We don't get a choice on the matter. This 3/8 cent sales tax is something you're already paying. This was something that was introduced in the renovations for the 2008 projects to improve Kaufman and Arrowhead before. So this is something that you're already paying. This is not a new tax. It would just to be extending it out further on to bring up money for the Royal Stadium and eventually for Arrowhead. So that's just something that I think, Chiefs fans and people who live in Kansas City should care about. That the plan is tentatively now is to get that sales tax on a ballot initiative next year to look to build a downtown stadium for the Royals, but also whatever the Chiefs' plans are going to do. Half that money will go to them as well.
Okay.
Kind of glad to hear it, because the Chiefs will probably, from what I'm understanding, are going to stay where they're at and buy up the surrounding area and just really
develop it. Okay. Now, and I know this is a Chiefs podcast, so I'm going to ask you a Royals question, Quinn, because you're more in tune to that. How much money does this owner? Is it Glass, correct?
No, he's the one that sold.
Sorry. The owner we
John
have
Sherman.
Sure. Yeah. How much? So are they not willing to pay for the stuff for this out of pocket? Because it seems the Chiefs have been pretty accommodating compared to other NFL teams on getting a stadium. It seems like the Royals, I don't know if they're going to step backwards.
It's interesting what you said. If you listen to his press conference, he was very open about it, and he says that $350 million that he's going to get from the 3/8 cents tax, he's also going to try and get assistance from the state and possibly the city from some sort of another fund from the city, like a direct fund. Other than that, his quote was that the ownership group will cover the rest.
So my question: what benefits does it give the town as a whole if we have to hit some of the bill? Because I mean, if you're willing to buy all the land and having the new stadium and all the things, I mean, there's only so much that people can do. It seems like not in this instance, but we see other instances when it comes to NFL stadiums, the owners are like, "Oh, I'm not going to pay for any of it." I'm like, "Well, you're bringing all this here, so this is kind of more of like a reasonable split between thirds.
Yeah,
and they're taking basically 31% technically.
Yeah, the outside looking in, this seems to be pretty reasonable out front. It's supposed to be a $2 billion project, $1 billion for the stadium, $1 billion for the area around it, because they want to build if you've ever been to Chicago,
I did
around Wrigley Field.
Very nice.
You know, that's what they want to do here in Kansas City, is they want to build a ballpark district around it. So the money that the taxpayers will be going to will just go to the stadium. But you know, this is important for Chiefs fans to know, because that 3/8 cents tax will also include giving money to the Chiefs whenever they build it. And it sounds like that once the Royals leave out, then the discussions will start about what the Chiefs are going to do.
Okay.
They're both going to go onto the same ballot. Just for the first part of it, will fund the Royals, and then the back half of it will fund the Chiefs. So that's why Chiefs fans, should also be paying attention to this, even if you don't care at all about the Royals and what happens with them. This also impacts Arrowhead and the future of the Chiefs.
Here's the thing about I've thought about this for years, and it's always irked me. When you have the money, or should have the money, to open up a stadium, build a stadium, buy the land, do whatever it is you're going to do. If you have the money to buy a team, you should have the money or the backing to complete the project, no matter where it's at. Because if you really look at it, the fans are the ones that are double paying. You're going to pay higher prices for the tickets because they're going to say, well, we got to make up the money we spent on this brand new stadium that you guys paid the taxes on and we put $380 million into. There's always a little underhanded slap there. And that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll explain that to you why I say that, because I've been through it in Kansas City before, but also here it's going on. My man, Will, what's up, Will? It's going on here. And we have a new governor here. He's a stroke. I'll just put it that way. He's turned down a record number of bills that would benefit the people that live in this state. Whether it be,
not to get political, JP.
I'm not getting political. I'll say this really quick because it pisses me off, and it does pertain to sports. He's turned down things that would really benefit the residents of the state, whether it be, low-income housing or different jobs that, or companies that want to come in, industries that want to come in. He's turned them all down. 75 bills he's turned down in the short period of time he's been a governor. You know which one he passed? For the state, for all the taxpayers to pay the $380 million that the A's want to move here. Another poverty franchise to move to Las Vegas just for the tax. And the tickets are ridiculously expensive anyway to even go to a Raiders game. Can you imagine what it's going to be like when they bring the A's here? Because they're going to assume the same thing.
Yeah, you're surveying tourists in Vegas, but
Yeah.
I would look. Nobody, like, obviously, I'm not sitting here and advocating that in a perfect world, Kansas City and its taxpayers would not fund a sports stadium for the Chiefs or the Royals, right? That would be it's a private business. The private business should pay for it, but that's not how this works. You know, we know that Kansas City has dealt with losing franchises before to the other side of the state line and out of the city completely, out of the metro area completely. Like in the past, the Sporting KC, the soccer team, was supposed to be downtown, and now it's over on the Kansas side because they couldn't find the funding for a stadium. So look, in a perfect world, you're right. The public funding with this wouldn't exist at all. At the very least, public funding would only be used for like building the roads around the stadium. But that's not how this works. Okay, we live in the United States. This is just what happens where, you know, billion-dollar projects like this get public funding, and we're just going to have to move on with it. Honestly, when I heard the $350 million number, I was surprised on how low that number was.
That is low compared to
that to be, you know, much higher, especially when the number has always been it's a $2 billion project. For you to then step in and say that this tax that you're already paying, we just want to extend it and then get some more from the state, which the state has helped build stadiums in the past, like the Cardinal Stadium, right? So I was shocked at how like low that number is in retrospect. So that's the plan going forward. And I just think that, you know, Royals fans and Chiefs fans should be aware that this is starting to get the ball rolling a little bit. John Sherman and the Royals have kicked around this whole thing for 4 months now.
Yep.
And this is the first time we've gotten an actual number and we've gotten sort of a plan on what they want to do, because it sounds like the Chiefs and the Royals want this on a ballot measure coming up in April.
Well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, fans are going to pay no matter what, and that's okay. I don't like the idea of the fact that they want to tax people to.
Yeah, nobody wants it. I mean, like nobody on here and nobody in the chat is like, bro, I want my tax dollars to build a stadium.
I understand.
I want a free ticket if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, no. And there's so many outside entities that are involved with the stadiums. I mean, you know, they don't own the parking, like up at Arrowhead and up Royal Stadium. It was owned, and I don't know who owns it now, but there was an individual that actually owned that parking there. I knew him. He did pass away, but he was a very rich man, because he owned the parking for the Royals and the Chiefs, and then he also owned almost every parking lot and garage downtown Kansas City, and he owned them outright. So there's so much other entities that come into play, and then you got to think about it from this perspective. If the Chiefs and the Royals are different, you know, they're not going to bring in outside entities to work. You know, if there's jobs that are created, that's fantastic. Even if it's short-term or contract jobs, that's great for the people there. Here, if a team moves here, just like the Raiders did, they're going to bring 80% of their people with them. They're not going to hire people that live in this state.
Yeah, and that's just one of the things that's going to happen. I mean, my hope with the whole situation is that the Chiefs won't move, but from what looks like it as a whole, people are coming together to work. So, I mean, that's fine with me at the end of the day. Like Quentin said, I expect when you look at $2 billion project, you think they're going to want more. But it seems like it's pretty reasonable. So, I mean, I can't complain there one bit. So, we'll see what happens in 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah,
so.
Especially because it's nothing new. It's just an extension of what people are already used to paying. So,
yeah.
Right,
well, you know, they did that with Formula One here really quick. Just really quick. They signed a contract to have Formula One here, the race. And they have been paving the streets. The contract's been done for a year. Everything was finished. Formula One was paying for everything. Everything. The state didn't have to pay for nothing. That was in the contract. Then all of a sudden, because they are paving the streets to make the track, they want, I want to say it's either $80 million. Yeah, because it's $160 million of paving and street repair, and they want the city to pay for half of it now. And that wasn't in the contract at the beginning. But the city's so far into this now, are they going to turn them down? One guy said, oh, hell no. I ain't doing that. This was the contract. You guys agreed to pay for it all. They built, you got to see the building they built. Just the VIP building. It's stupid, man. It's like 35,000 square feet. And it's just a VIP building for people to hang out and watch the race. And then owners and people like that. But
at least we can take from this that at least the Chiefs and the Royals are willing to work with.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, but anyway, moving on. That was cool, Quentin. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's just something that whether, like I said, whether you're a Royals fan or a Chiefs fan or you just live in the area, this is something you need to pay attention to.
Yep. Okay. Should we go on to the stupid things that go on Twitter really quick?
Yeah, let's get into your stupid stuff, and then we'll do our snake draft.
I don't think it's my stupid stuff. It's stupid stuff that goes on Twitter.
It's the bad take of the day. That's pretty much what it is.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is from a guy that gives nothing but bad takes. Hey, Chiefs Live, what's up, bro? Dov Clickbait Kleiman decided to put out a post today stating that Travis Kelce wants more money. And in his, I'm going to look it up really quick because I don't remember his exact wording, but it was pretty stupid. And he made himself look dumb because everybody went after him after the fact. But he said something along the lines that Travis Kelce wants more money. And he's asked his agents for more money. That's not true. And in fact, if you listen to any part of that interview, he never said that. Those words never came out of his mouth. In fact, he said, when people ask me, do you want more money? Do you want this? Do you want that? He always says, I put winning Super Bowls over, over free agency. And in fact, this is the update that the Clickbait King put out. Update, #Chiefs star tight end Travis Kelce says he's underpaid, expressed his desire for higher salary to his agents. More here. Well, understand that this clickbait artist, he got fired from a major network years ago, and he's been an independent reporter since then.
I don't think he reports to begin with.
No, he doesn't report anything. He's just a jackass. But regardless, apparently he's writing for somebody called brobible.com, which I've never heard of before. So apparently that's where he put this article out. And a few hundred people went after him over it simply because of the things that he said. And here's in fact one of his responses. He said he actually very much said that Kelce said, anytime I talk about wanting more money, they're just like, why don't you go to the Chiefs and ask them? Kelce brings it up to his agent per his own quote. And yes, he also loves winning and his situation. I included that. That doesn't matter. If that was the case, he wouldn't have restructured. Okay, first of all. If he was that unhappy with being the third highest paid tight end in football, then he would have already had a problem. There would have been a problem already. He would have held out. There would have been something. He understands that this is not something that he's like Mahomes when it comes to this. You either want to take the bag and screw your team and yourself out of Super Bowls, or you get and be content with what you're making, which is a pretty damn good chunk of money every year, plus your Super Bowl money, your playoff money, and everything else he's getting, endorsement money, or you lose out. And that's what he's understanding. He's not a dumb man. But for that clickbait article to come out and the way he posted it on Twitter, it shouldn't be surprising to me at all, because he does this every time he posts something. It's really ignorant, but it's just the fact that he made it look like Kelce is unhappy and he wants more. And in fact, in that article, he said Kelce should be paid like the top wide receivers in the league. He's not a wide receiver. He's a tight end. If he wanted to be a wide receiver, he can transfer over and say, hey, I'm a wide receiver. Probably has that right. He could have done that 5 years ago, but he didn't do that. He gets paid tight end money. He's happy with what he makes. He's happy with that $1 million he got for winning the Super Bowl. He's happy with the $500,000 he got for the playoffs. He's happy with the restructure. He got paid up front. or the signing bonus that he got up front. I should say restructure or bonus structure. It's just when Dov Kleiman doesn't like the Chiefs. He never has. Him and Nick Florio probably sit in a room somewhere or on text, and they come up with reasons to slam the Chiefs. I mean, it's just a common thing. There's a lot of people that don't like the Chiefs just because they're good. But to outright lie about it, and I'm surprised Kelsey hasn't made a comment about it to this point, but he hasn't. He may. Who knows? But it's ridiculous to even bring it up. He never said he was unhappy with his money. He said in fact, at the end of his interview, he said, "I'm quite content with what I make and the Super Bowls that I'm getting." He knows he's going to be 34 years old. He knows that he's not going to get paid, especially at this point in his career. Nobody's going to go and sign him right now and say, "Okay, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and give you an extra $2 million a year to make you the highest paid guy in the league, highest paid tight end." Well, oh, by the way, we probably won't even make the playoffs, so that $2 million is really nil. And you're going to get the same money from the Chiefs because you're making the playoffs and you're making the Super Bowl. But we're going to go ahead and give you that money just to say I make the most money in the NFL. He's not Tyreek Hill. He doesn't need a contract that says something that's basically a fictitious number. So for everybody out there that read that, go back on Dov Kleiman's page and tell him he's stupid and then move on. I had to bring that up. One other thing I want to bring up is the clowning of clowns out there that continue to say that Isaiah Pacheco is going to decline this year. That last year was a fluke. They don't believe he's going to get any better. They don't think he was as good as what everybody thinks he was. I don't know what games you were watching last year. I don't know if everybody out there that watched him, maybe has Helen Keller syndrome. I really don't know what the situation is. That man, he hurts the ground when he runs. He's learned to be patient. He's learned to find the gaps. He's learned to follow his blockers. He's learned to catch out of the backfield. If you give him the opportunity, he just might be one of the best tight ends or running backs the Chiefs have ever had. You have to give him an opportunity. Don't start slamming him because you think it was a fluke. There's no flukes when you come out of the 7th round and play like that. And I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but a 7th rounder to come out of the chute like that and to play the way he did and take a grown man's job, that's no fluke. That's just somebody that really has determination and will and wants to succeed. And now he's got the taste. He knows what it's like to be a rookie 7th rounder that almost went undrafted and won a Super Bowl ring. And a lot of it was because of him. What's your guys' opinion on that?
So when it comes to Isaiah Pacheco, I wouldn't think it's a fluke. I don't know where they're getting that from. We all knew Isaiah Pacheco was special because when Quinn and I went to camp, we saw him play, and then we're constantly hearing things on the radio. And then in the games of the preseason, when the first team was out there, he got in for his couple snaps on the first drive, and rookies hardly don't ever really do that when it comes to these big names, but these guys and stuff around things like that. And then kind of we see the progression when it came to week 1 against the Cardinals. He got in there for a lot of those reps with the first team guys. And then over the season, just continue to be more and more and more and more great. And that just showed what he can do. I mean, I would say he's probably one of our better running backs. Honestly, and you guys may disagree with me, essentially Jamal Charles. I mean, we had guys like Spencer Ware, Chuck Hendrick West, Kareem Hunt was up there, is pretty good. Also, Damien Williams. But I think Pacheco has a chance to actually, hopefully, solidify his time in here in Kansas City and put up great numbers. He's everything you want in a running back. He's a hard runner down the field, but he can also catch passes out of the backfield. Blocking is something he could work on a little bit, but that's something that will take time. This is not college. He's hungry. That's what you need. These guys from the 6th, 7th rounds, undrafted, that can come and they can play. And what we've seen out of Pacheco, I mean, he played the Super Bowl, what they said, torn labrum.
And broken bone in his hand, I think.
Yeah. And he played like nothing was bothering him. So obviously he probably got injected with Toradol. That happens. But the thing is, this guy is a competitor, and you need a player like this. He runs as hard as Kareem Hunt, but he has the shiftiness of Jamal Charles, and he has the
Yes.
acceleration of Damian Williams sometimes. And I
Thank
can
you.
see all those players in him sometimes. And when I see him play, I'm like, he can do so many great things for us. And now the issue comes down the line here is this: how much the Chiefs going to be able to pay him because of the issue of the running backs. But I think he's going to be here for a while. I don't think it's a fluke. Dude, we're at the point. People are just bored out of their mind. They're just coming up with these stories like Dov Kleiman has something to talk about. Everyone just has a story they want to get out and talk about.
Yeah.
I think Pacheco is going to be great. I'm not worried per se about that. I'm not worried about the Kelsey drama. These guys are going to be fine. Stuff is going to be taken out of context because we're just in the point where there's just nothing to talk about. And when it comes to these two players, the Chiefs very well might be in the same position where they were in last year, at least getting to the AFC Championship game or going to the Super Bowl, very much so due to both of those players. So when it comes to the future of this team, I'm not worried. It's all going to work out. Even if Pacheco drops a little bit, I feel like Prince is going to jump up and help some up workload as well. So I'm not worried. This is not going to Ezekiel Hill situation, I believe.
Yeah, I think that in terms of, Isaiah Pacheco, I don't think that it's really fair to take away some of and say that it was a fluke, right? The only player that is a fluke on this show is Joe Flacco, right?
Yeah.
The production that we got, I think, is realistic to come back from, right? It's not like this guy came out and had a 1,700-yard year, right? I mean, he didn't have, based on the context of how he was able to get those yards in the shorter time span that he got it, like, it was really impressive. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away with him with what I'm about to say, but it's not like he had this historic season, right? He didn't come out and have this almighty season where it's like it's impossible to get back from. Like, it's completely reasonable for him to get back to that point because that's the production that good running backs get to. That's the expectation, not just of him, but most running backs in the NFL, right? You got to be around that 1,000-yard mark if you're to be the top guy in any system, in any of the NFL team. That's the expectation. So for him to say that he's going to have a downgrade because of what he did last year was just so high and mighty, I think is very short-sighted because we know that the talent level is there. We see that he's able to do the production, and there's no reason to think that he's going to have some sort of injury, right? He doesn't have an injury history. So there's no prediction. There's no real reason to say that, he's not capable of doing that. So, yeah, I think that's just somebody said that, and it's picked up steam.
They're looking for a response, man.
Yeah.
I think
they're just bored and they want a response.
That's what it is. And they also have to look at the fact that to some degree, it was a situation where it was something that was very unexpected. You don't see too many 7th-round running backs that come out and get 1,000+ yards in a season, especially when they're not the full-time running back and they don't. And look, dude, we're an 80-20 team, so it's not like we run the ball, 50% of the time. It's a 20% of the time situation, and he still clipped 1,000 yards.
Well, I think all purpose. I think we have like
960 yards all purpose.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought
that was a little bit more. I thought it was more than that. I thought 960.
He had 960 yards all purpose through the regular season. He had about 200 through the postseason. So
maybe that's what you had all the. Okay, you had the postseason, and then that's over 1,000.
I mean, like what he did. I don't want to sound like I'm taking anything away from him because what he did as an undrafted free agent, not playing the entire season as the starter, coming in later in the year and doing what he did was extremely impressive. It's fun to watch. He's a really good player, and I can't wait to watch him for the next couple of years on this team. But like what he did is not completely, blowing out of the water in terms of just what a NFL running back, the expectation for him to do is. It's totally replicable.
It's not expected because he was a 7th-round draft pick.
Yeah, but now we know what he is. Now that's the expectation, and it's totally reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in the system that we have, given the fact, look, if he can do it with a 20% run team, can you imagine what he can do if he plays a full season as the starter?
Right.
So it just is what it is. But
you guys think he'll eclipse? I'm just curious, but do you think he will eclipse 1,200 yards all purpose?
Oh yeah, he'll break 1,000. He'll break the 1,000, and I expect he's going to be used more in the passing game this year, right? You give him an extra season and another off season of just him focusing on like something like pass blocking to build up his strength. I assume he'll be used more on third downs than he was last year. I expect him to be more, like I said, he was just under that 1,000-yard mark. So if he eclipses, 1,300 yards all purpose, that wouldn't shock me at all, just because he'd play a full season and he has more experience in the system. And I can't wait to see him running some of those flat routes or some of those, little dump offs to the outside when teams decide for some stupid reason to blitz Mahomes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing you said, Caleb, that it was 100% spot on. He has glimpses of Jamal Charles. He has glimpses of Kareem.
The toughness of Kareem Hunt, and then he has the speed of Damian Williams.
And the speed of Damian Williams. I mean, think about it. If you can hone in on all three of those, can you imagine, say, 4 or 5 years on it, and maybe we sign him to an extension for a couple, 3 years, and he ends up with us for, say, a full 7 years? Can you imagine what people would say if he actually eclipsed Jamal Charles' numbers with Kansas City?
If he does that, then you consider be one of the best running backs in Kansas City Chiefs history.
Yes.
If he does that. Now, will he? I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm just saying, what would they say then? What would people say then? Was it a fluke?
I just can't see him getting 200 yards rushing in a game because of how many we throw the ball. The only time that's going to happen if we're in a position where it's just bad weather condition. The Chiefs have already scored their 2 touchdowns in the snow, and they've already beat down the other team to a point like we're just going to pound the ball down and throw it every single play. I can see him doing that there. I just can't see him collapsing, going 25 rushes for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns like Jamal Charles would do to the Broncos back in the day. I just don't see. I see him getting barely over 100 yards, a touchdown or 2, 10, 15 rushes. I mean, just due to the play calling dynamics, we're not in that run first offense anymore. We're passing the ball. We're throwing it. Now, they did what I did say they were going to do last year. They were going to rely on the running game more, and it did help. And I see them doing that more this time. With a more of a 1-2 now 3-punch combo with a Pierce now. So, I mean, a lot of things can happen. At the end of the day, I think, for a 7th rounder, he did exceed expectations. But from what we all saw in the field, we're hearing this dude is different. And guys follow the Chiefs, and they do it. I mean, that guy they just brought up from UAB on the who's going to camp, he could be possibly another guy that surprises people. I mean, Veach, there's always a player in the NFL that exceeds expectations that no one really knows or talks about. Charvarius Ward was one. We have Pacheco. There was another one.
Harrison
Adam
Butker's
Thielen.
one of them
Bucker. Adam Thielen went to like some D2 school in Minnesota. Had to pay the Vikings to basically do a workout. Ended up getting a job. So there's always going to be a story. And Pacheco's just one of the latest guys we see who we're going to look back a few years from now, especially when they have the docu-series or Mahomes, the last touch series or whatever, and you're going to have a clip of Pacheco talking about his importance to the team and things like that. So he's one of those players that submitted himself, and he can clip Jamal Charles. If he does that, he'll be considered one of the greatest running backs in Chiefs history.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know. I think it was just it's pretty insane. I know people are bored, and I get all that. They even said the same thing about Tony. People are putting way too much expectations on Tony right now. I don't think they are. I think Tony is going to play. Look, when you have guys that are hungry and they're counted out, we've talked about this for years, Caleb, and it's pretty amazing to me that people to this day still. You got GMs and owners that refuse to go after 7th-round picks, 6th-round picks.
And that's where it comes down to. I don't know if you agree with this, Quentin, but the Chiefs have one of the best scouting groups in all the NFL where they're finding guys at the MAC or the Pac-12 or those Power 5 schools like Boise State, San Diego State, or those guys from UTEP or Louisiana Tech that are very good. You need those guys to figure out what players are where, because not everyone's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams or Jordan Addison or Baker Mayfield, all those guys. You need those guys that are hungry and are ready to go. So
Alabama and Georgia only have so many players.
Exactly.
So, being able to, when you're picking towards the end of the round, you need to be able to pick up that corner from Oregon who, for some reason, maybe he played a lot of safety and corner. So, you need a corner. He didn't play that much at corner. He played a ton of safety that final year. So, he slid in the draft just because there's not as much tape on him. But you pick him up because you see the talent there. Or you see a defensive, there's a defensive edge rusher who is extremely raw, but you know that you can develop that talent, right? If you're a good team, in order to stay a good team, that's the kind of stuff that you have to do. And that comes from a system to be able to find these guys. It comes to a scouting department, a coaching staff that can work with these guys. And that's more than just a coordinator. That's position coaches to be able to do it, the flexibility there. So, yeah, I mean, it's an entire system. It's not just the guys that we see every day. In fact, a lot of it is the guys that we will never know. And that's how you stay good. That's why there's so much parity in the NFL, because it's so difficult.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, now we can do
snake draft.
Let's do the snake draft, man.
Okay, so the snake draft, today's snake draft edition is going to be the best additions to the Chiefs. It can be anything, players, coaches, whatever, draft picks. So
is this the 2023 season only?
Yeah, the 2023 off season. Caleb, you can go first. JP, I picked twice. JP will go again, and Caleb will have the last pick. So we'll do that, and that should wrap up the show.
Okay. All right, so with the first pick of this draft. So we see there's a lot of different things that have happened for the Chiefs throughout this season. The biggest thing I'm going to say is this. We may or may not agree with Caleb, but regardless, hey, we all got takes. And like Quinn said, everyone has opinions, and they're not always the best. Mine is going to be what we're looking at is re-signing Jerick McKinnon. The reason why I say that is because McKinnon was very vital to the team's success. He had 8 touchdowns in 8 straight games receiving. He's a great player in the backfield. He's great at running the ball. He's just great at everything all around. And the reason why this is important, because just leaving Pacheco back there in the room by himself with other new guys, I don't feel as confident without having Jerick McKinnon there. He has been in this system for a couple years now. He has seen different things. And now going to his 3rd or 4th year with the team, he knows what to do automatically. And is he going to be your starter? No. But McKinnon is going to be doing things that's going to help benefit your team in the long run. And the reason why McKinnon is so special is because Andy Reid saw his ability and his talent at places such as the Vikings, the 49ers, honed in that talent, brought him to Kansas City, and for the most part, he has pretty much done so many great things. And because we have basically a 1-2 combo still with Kansas City, I believe we can still run through teams literally. McKinnon's a small guy, but he's a tall dude. He's tall in stature when it comes to just blowing through people. It doesn't matter if he's under 6 foot. So having that 1-2 punch and him coming back along with Pacheco, it just made me know the Chiefs are in the right direction, and they're not going to just rely on a quote-unquote rookie yet.
I look, man, I'm going to agree with you on that 100% because we were pounding the table to bring him back. And he is, without a doubt, I don't care what anyone says, he is the best blocking running back in football. He proved that last year. He needed to block, and he did. And I think he was one of the – he's a huge factor as to why we won a Super Bowl last year. Mm-hmm. And it's a great thing that we brought him back. And I'm glad his career got resurrected. I mean, he deserved it. And you're right. He's been with the system long enough. He knows it. He had his opportunity to go to a couple other places, and he wanted to come back and win another ring. Why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. You know, it's just a smart move. But I agree with you on that one. Now, who's next, Quentin?
You.
Oh, me. Well, I could state the obvious, but I'm not. I'm going to – well, it might be the obvious. I don't know. I'm going to go with Rashee Rice.
Okay.
Everybody complained about the draft pick, especially when it happened.
But continue.
Yeah. Didn't understand it. Everybody wanted a guy that – was it Quentin? I think it was Quentin Johnston that everybody was pounding the table for.
Mm-hmm.
I was against, for the record.
Yeah, you were. And honestly, I didn't really care. I was under the impression that he had a lot of drops and some issues hanging on to the ball. So I was But when they signed Rashee Rice, I was very excited. After looking at his route running ability, his size, his football IQ, and the fact that, and I guess you can go ahead and throw in the fact that Mahomes absolutely loved him and he picked him too. I feel like he's going to be one of those breakout guys. I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that is going to be on the field a lot more than people expect him to be.
Okay.
And he's gonna be a contributing factor this year in a lot of ways. Whether it be decoy or whether it be just beating people down the field, opening up lanes, doing what he has to do. I feel like he's going to be that guy. I don't feel like he's going to be 7th on the depth chart or 6th on the depth chart. I feel like by week 3 or 4, he's probably going to be 3rd on the depth chart. 3rd or 4th. That's what I feel like. Between him and, the unsung guy that one person on this show doesn't like, Justin Ross, I feel like those two guys are going to be like the 3-4 combo by week 5.
Okay.
So that's just my take on it. I could be wrong. And it wouldn't be the first time. Definitely won't be the last. But I just feel like you're going to see Tony. I think you're going to see a step up with Sky Moore. And then it's going to be those two guys that are going to be the 3-4 punch. That's my take, Rashee Rice.
Good take, especially looking forward to the future. But yeah, he's an exciting player. I mean, you just see the skills are there. I've got my 2 now. I think the first one I'm going to make it pretty easy. I'm going to go with Charles Omenihu. He's a guy we haven't talked about a ton this offseason because I think his skill set's pretty straightforward. Look, he's a guy that can play defensive tackle, can play defensive edge. He comes from one of the best and most consistent defenses over the last 5 years from the 49ers. So I think Charles Omenihu is a guy that can make a big impact on this team moving forward. And I think maybe it's because it happened so early in the offseason, we've sort of blown by it. But he was one of the guys that the Chiefs invested money in real early. So my first pick, I'm going to go with Charles Omenihu. You guys got anything to say about that one?
I agree with you. I like him. I think it was a great pick, especially bring him in because at that point we didn't know what was going to happen with Frank Clark. Now we see it work. It's working out. I believe what he's going to do, he's going to have a step above what he had in San Francisco. He's going to be a great piece for this defense. I mean, we need more veteran leadership. It was I think it was one of those things where okay, we have a minute who he's proven. If we get Frank Clark back, great, but we have him to help mentor and push guys like Carl off as others are coming back. So at the end of the day, I do like the move, and it just shows us we're building more collective team base and bringing in the right individuals rather than signing the big name. Because if he wasn't signed for a lot of money per se, he was signed for a decent amount, and it's not breaking the bank. And this is one of not prove it deals, but saying, okay, we know what you can do, but just give us a little bit more, and we'll see. Maybe we'll bring you back in the years later.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, if you're going to bring a guy off of the real number 1 defense in the NFL, in which that's what the Niners were.
Yeah.
You can say there was a lot of top 5. I mean, we talk about this all the time. I don't know how many top 5 defenses there are in the NFL right now, but they were the true number 1 defense in the NFL last year. And if you can bring a guy like him in to solidify 1 or 2 different positions and also help the rookies, because he can play multiple positions. He's a great edge. I don't think people give him enough credit for that, but he's a great edge rusher. Then if you consider the fact that you might see another edge signing fairly quickly, right around training camp, you've got a couple of good veterans on your team, and maybe one that's not so much of a veteran as more of a younger veteran in this league. And if we can bring him in in a nice little trade package from Washington, I'm not going to complain. But I feel like he's a great pick. Who's your next one, Quentin?
This is one that's going to raise some eyebrows, but I'm going to say my next biggest addition is going to be the promotion of Matt Nagy.
Thank you, God.
Adding him to be
the
offensive coordinator. I know he was on the coaching staff, but to me, he's an addition to that offensive room to be the offensive coordinator. Look, the Andy Reid offense works better when you get new brains in the room. I think that the Eric Bieniemy thing this has nothing to do with him. I think it just got stale because Andy Reid seems to be a better coach when he has something else in the room. And having Eric Bieniemy there for that long, I think sort of stunted the growth of Bieniemy and Andy Reid a little bit. Having Matt Nagy back in the room, I think is hopeful there. And just it's another one of those things that we haven't talked about it a ton because we sort of know what Matt Nagy is because he was here in Kansas City a few years ago. And he's been in the NFL for a while. Obviously did a head coaching stint up in Chicago where he took one of the biggest busts at quarterback position and took him to the playoffs a couple of times. So I think we should give a little bit more love to Matt Nagy. And that's why I'm putting him on my list here, despite the fact that it's kind of a cheap cop-out with him already being on the coaching staff.
Go ahead, Caleb.
I like it. I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, it came to a point where you need another mind in the room, and we saw a lot of Nagy and Mahomes talking the sideline, and even Mahomes was credited saying after Nagy left, saying he comes up with some basically ridiculous plays that are going to help us. So it's good for everyone all around. We got new brains, new chemistry, everything in there. It's just only going to be beneficial with the play call and things like that. I don't expect things to be stale and stagnant. I feel like a couple times with Bieniemy, even Reed, was like, why are we doing certain play calls? I don't want to go back into all that. Well, who was calling the play calls here, there, so the third. Yeah. I just think now we're in a more stable position, and I feel like hopefully now they give Mahomes the ability to kind of take more of a free reign and do whatever he wants. He's won 2 Super Bowls. I think we're finally at the point where you're having another individual who's giving you what they believe is going to work, and he can take that and then alter off that just slightly.
I agree with you, man. I feel like with the fact that Nagy can draw up plays the way he can, you put 2 great offensive minds together that can draw up plays together, you're going to end up with situations like we had last year. The corn dog left and right. He sees things on the field defensively, and he's able to draw up plays in the middle of the game. And that's something that is very underrated because he sees things that go on with a certain defensive tackle or a corner or a safety. It doesn't matter who it is. And he will draw up a play in the middle of the damn game and give it to Mahomes, and they will use it. And that's something that it's very underrated. And I think those 2 minds together, you're going to see a lot of crazy things come out of those 2 together and this football team this year. And that's what I feel like is going to happen because he's great at drawing up plays. I mean, that's, he's got that mindset that he understands it. He watches enough film and he draws those plays up while he's doing it.
Yeah, there's a chance that we see 2 totally different styles of offense week to week. Like 1 week it'll be a heavy three tight end set game, and the following week it'll be a totally different where you see 3 wide receivers, in the shotgun for a lot of the game. I think that's something that we could 100% see moving forward. So that's why I'm going to pit Matt Nagy, even though I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a cop out because he was already on the roster. But it's my snake draft. I'm going to allow it.
Yeah, but he got promoted, so it's really not a cop out. He did get promoted. I guess you can honestly say, okay, well, he really didn't get promoted because that really was his job last year anyway. But titles fool a lot of people. But he was promoted. He's an assistant head coach. He's the offensive coordinator, and he's also a great quarterbacks coach as well. So kudos. It was a good call.
All right. Opinion. It is JP, it's your turn, and then we'll finish the show out with Caleb.
Oh, it's Caleb.
No, it's you.
It's me? Oh.
Yeah, snake draft. It goes
I got
like an S. So it's your turn, JP.
All right. Well, I will go with somebody that I really like and I think will help tremendously. And it's an undrafted guy that I mistakenly put drafted today with Derek Blaylock on a tweet while I was driving. And boy, I had two guys that had to make sure they brought that up. But anyway, undrafted Prince. I think he is putting in the work, hard work. The guy is leg pressing like 630 pounds. I mean, it just, deadlifting with his legs. His consistent leg press is like 315. He's putting in the work to be what he wants to be in the NFL, what we need him to be in the NFL. And I think he's gonna be a big contributing factor. That was a smart move on Brett Veach's part. I'm sorry, but that was a great move on his part to bring him in. It just is what it is. We've got a couple of undrafted guys that came in, but he's the one that I think really was an extremely smart move on their part.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, you've heard me talk about Prince. My feelings on him are out there. I think out of all the undrafted guys out there, I think he has the best odds to make the roster. So, he's an interesting guy. I got nothing new to add to that.
Yep. I agree with you there. My guy is someone you guys probably haven't thought of since the draft, but it's offensive tackle Wanya Morris. The reason why I pick him is because this is another addition by the Chiefs to help rebuild the offensive line in case something were to happen. Wanya Morris was at Tennessee and in Oklahoma, so he had the ability. He played with two great offensive lines. At Tennessee, he actually played with Trey Smith, right guard for us right now, 6th-round pick. The story is there. So he has chemistry already built there. And he also played at Oklahoma. The Chiefs love drafting offensive guys from Oklahoma. That's where we got Creed Humphreys. And now we got with Wanya Morris. I think he's going to be another versatile player that can help the Chiefs in specific situations. In the event the Chiefs cannot bring a guy back that they want, he'll be able to slip in and help. And we've all know the importance of having offensive line help. I know it's not the quote-unquote greatest pick, but we don't want to repeat what happened in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers.
Absolutely.
If you watch those highlights, it's just Mahomes running around for days. Couldn't do anything.
Run for his life.
You can have additions of these great individuals, specifically from the offensive line room, like a Wanya Morris, who has been in different systems and kind of know what's expected of him. It's only going to make everything better, protecting Mahomes' blind side and doing things like that. And plus, he can play multiple positions on the line as well, right guard, left guard, things like that, and also go up to the tackle position. So regardless of what happens, I believe this move is underrated, and it's going to be one of those where people are going to be talking about, like, how did he slip to the 3rd round that Chiefs got him compared to all these other guys that went in the 1st and 2nd round?
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
You've got a ton of good points there, and I'm going to try and hit on them quickly. I think the flexibility point you brought up, that's huge, right? Andy Reid, if you look at the guys on this roster, most of them can play multiple positions. Most of them can play and have experience, and that's important. Not only can they just say, oh, well, he can also play X position. Most of them have played on other positions, whether in college or in the NFL. They've played at these other spots. So that's important there. We know just how Andy Reid loves to use these guys. You also brought up just the fact that Kansas City, the tackle position, look, this is the 2nd time within the last couple of years. Kansas City has tried to replace its tackles in the offseason.
Yep.
I'm surprised neither one of you guys brought up Juwan Taylor.
I was getting ready to as an honorable mention.
Yeah. So, just to kind of squish these points together, replacing your tackles again, this is a big deal. And if Kansas City is going to be successful, this has to work. There's not really an if or but about it. Kansas City needs to have these tackles work. So this draft pick and signing is important to work. It really needs to. Otherwise, you're going to have to finagle the rest of the offensive line in order to get it to work. So, this is it's an important move that had to happen this offseason with the leaving of Brown and the leaving and reshuffling of your tackle positions. So, yeah, real big point and a good guy to bring up.
Absolutely. And honestly, I was going to bring up Taylor as an honorable mention just because everybody complains so much that, the first they thought he was going to play left tackle, and now it's, with the assumption that he is going to play right tackle, and they paid $80 million for a right tackle. Well, here's the thing. That's the side that Mahomes needs the most protection on. If you really look at it and watch any football game that he's played in, especially over this last year, he has absolutely needed protection from that side. Wiley did not give that to him. We've proven that numerous times. So if he's going to stay at right tackle, and we have who was the other one we signed? His name slipped in my mind.
Donovan Smith.
Donovan Smith. If you put Donovan Smith at left tackle and he plays, just say he plays as well or just a step above Orlando Brown. Okay, just a step above. Then Mahomes' right side is protected. And that's where his weak side was from, because we all know that that's where the problem lied last year. Again, the only reason why Brown got away with allowing 4 sacks is because of Mahomes' versatility and the fact that McKinnon was there to block. It's that simple, because that's the side that McKinnon blocked on 90% of the time. So if you can get somebody that can square up, keep Mahomes protected on the left side to where he can move around, and you got a right tackle to keep his blind side clear, oh shit, it's dangerous. And I give you all the props in the world for bringing him up, because I completely forgot about him.
It's just the Chiefs are always going, and I told everyone this last year. I don't know if you're here for that, Quinn, but I told everyone the Chiefs are going to take a offensive lineman of some sort every single year, just to have someone ready to go just in case.
Yep.
Find someone they think that can gel, that can work well with the team, can mesh, and has very well different concepts. And if they're there, and bonus, if they're from like Oklahoma school, they're going to take them due to the stuff they've done over time.
I mean, if you look at our offensive line, right, we all agree Creed Humphrey is the second best center in the NFL, only behind Jason Kelce. We know Trey Smith is one of the best guards there. Jawan Taylor is an elite level pass blocker.
Yep.
When he was with Jacksonville, and is fine in run blocking. So then that whole side is top tier.
Yeah, it's covered. Right? I mean, it's elite.
That right side of the line is great. Yeah. Then we've got our left tackle, whoever that ends up being, whether the guy we draft or the guy we signed. Let's say he's average, which I think could be fair, right? If you're, especially if it's the guy that's from the Buccaneers, he's had pretty good seasons. Last year he was just all over with some injuries, and we know that our left guard, well, the reason that he's getting paid so much is because he was the best left guard in the NFL. So if your quote unquote weakness is an average left tackle, you're very happy, because you really just need to have an average NFL line, because the offensive line it's a chain. You know, you're only as good as your weakest link, because the offensive line has to block everybody. A defensive line wins if one guy gets through.
Thank you.
A defensive line wins if they get one guy through, whether it's the defensive tackle, whether it's a corner blitz, or a Bosa of the world. So as long as your guys are average, and you can use your running backs to chip block, your tight ends to assist, and then go out and catch a pass, right? There are ways that you can do it. And if I only have to necessarily worry about one spot because he's just not fantastic, because he's not the best at what he does, then you're talking about a really good offensive line. And with Mahomes' ability to run 35 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then throw the ball, this line will be great. Now,
and the fact that his strongest side is you want, if it's going to be an average, just say left side of the offensive line, let it be average a little bit, because that's Mahomes' strongest side. You know, I mean, if you're really looking at it from that perspective, I mean, you're right. 100% agree with you. Wiley was a great example of who, you know, you let one guy through, and it doesn't have to be a Bosa, because you let a lot of guys through that weren't Bosa. You know, they weren't a Bosa style player. So if it's gonna be your left side that may be an average or just a hair above average, fine with me. I'm okay with that, because we've got into that whole right side is elite, in my opinion.
And truly, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, adding Jawan Taylor, who, like I said, PFF, and I like PFF for their offensive linemen and their defensive lineman grades. I think they are very accurate. So, you know, when they give somebody an elite level pass block grade, I totally, am going with it. Joe Thuney, when he got signed and went to free agency from the Patriots, he was literally the best left guard in football. So when you sign him for his big deal, even if he hypothetically drops off a little bit with age, he's still a top tier left guard. So you're talking about having, at least for 4 of your 5 positions, a top tier pass blocking. And then if you have an average left tackle, that's a great offensive line. That's an amazing offensive line, and you can work around that.
Yep, and and again, we didn't really even talk about Thuney much. So, there's always him. He's one of the best in the league.
I think this could be his last year.
I think so too. I think so
too. The way
too.
things work. So
yeah, I mean, money, business wise, depending on who steps up, it might be his last year. But again,
it's easier to replace a guard than a tackle.
Absolutely. With that being said, I don't know if we got anything else. Do you guys have anything else?
No, I think we're
No,
good.
sir. My most recent article came out on Newsbreak, which I was pretty happy about. But it's about Jared Allen and why Jared Allen is a top-tier Kansas City Chiefs pass rusher. I make my argument. You should read it. His career is underrated here in Kansas City, despite the fact he only played here for 4 years. So go ahead and read it. I was impressed with the numbers when I read it, and he may be better than Neil Smith, but I didn't say it. The numbers did. So
filthy talk.
Oh man, you guys.
Anyway, you know what? Hey, we're on
read the
Newsbreak,
article.
we're on Apple
That's
News. Hey man, I'm glad it's there. We're on Apple News, we're on Newsbreak, we're on Quora, Medium, BuzzFeed. You can find us everywhere. We're actually on boards with SI.com, so you can check our articles out everywhere. It's awesome that it's on. You know that article popped up on Newsbreak, and I don't know what else we got, but we will definitely be talking to you guys on Tuesday unless something else crazy happens between now and then. You never know with this team.
Maybe
Something
the Chiefs will
crazy
trade
may
for
happen.
Chase Young.
That's what I'm hoping for. I have a weird feeling if it does happen, it's probably going to be closer to training camp. But just remember, anybody that's listening or that listens later, that is on the table. And Eric Bieniemy does love him some Clyde. So let Clyde go ahead and go on to the Washington.
the Washington football team that's from the Washington metropolitan area.
Yeah, that team there. Let him go there, and we'll get a great player in return. So, with that being said, we will talk to you guys again on Tuesday. Peace out, everybody.